speaker, so the presentation and his speech were concealed. So our participants were waiting for you, and they are still here. So if you are ready, we can start right now.
Absolutely fine.
Okay. So go on, please.
So just start, yeah?
Yeah, you start.
Everybody can hear me, yeah? Good evening, everyone. My name is Geoff Thompson. I have the honour of being currently the interim president for ISTQB. I'm also the chairman of the UK Testing Board, so I run one of the member boards for ISTQB. I've been involved with ISTQB from the very beginning. I was one of the initial architects of ISTQB way back in 2002. So very pleased today to be able to come along and present to you a little bit about what ISTQB is doing next. You've had some presentations about some of the ISTQB syllabi. I'm going to sort of take you through where we're moving in the future. So the agenda I'm going to run through is initially I'm going to give you a bit of an introduction to ISTQB and how we develop syllabi, so you can then see where we are. And we'll then look at some of the new syllabi that are coming out or on their way into the public domain. We'll then look at other syllabi that are in development, so you know what's coming in the future. And then I'd like to spend a few minutes at the end just covering off a view, my own personal view, of what might happen next when it comes to ISTQB and syllabi and certification. So let's start with what is ISTQB. ISTQB, the International Software Testing Qualifications Board, is a non-profit association. We founded it in 2002 with just 10 boards. It's headquartered in Belgium. We have our own rules, constitution, and we are responsible for the ISTQB Certified Tester Scheme worldwide, which includes quite a few syllabi. I'll show those to you later on. We are recognised as the world's leading organisation for certification of professionals, and we run about 830,000 exams worldwide, and there's just over 600,000 people who actually hold the certificate and pass the exam. So our main aim is to advance the software testing profession, and I believe with 800,000 people having taken the exam, we're definitely achieving that. People use this in their day-to-day lives. But if we look at what our vision is as an organisation, our vision is to continually improve and advance the software testing profession by defining and maintaining a body of knowledge which allows testers to be certified based on best practice, connect to the international software testing community, and encouraging research. Today, we have 57 member boards. That's 57 different countries represented in ISTQB. So we are worldwide. If we then look at our values and what keeps us sound and governs us, we're looking at continuous learning. So we're looking at ways of helping people to continue to grow their knowledge and their capability. We're looking at openness. We're looking at honesty and knowledge sharing. We're looking at we are a non-profit, and we are definitely independent. So we're not about making profit. We're about being independent. We have high integrity. We have a governance team that ensures that we comply with all our rules and that we deliver the best quality product to the market. We have, as I say, 57 active member boards. We have consistency. The approach from ISTQB is if you take an exam anywhere in the world, you're taking exam that might be different but of the same quality. We obviously have an international presence, and we encourage professionalism. So it's trying to put professionalism into the software testing industry. Around those values, we need to look at and understand what our market is, what our value chain is. So I'll explain some of these a little bit more in a minute, but in the center is the General Assembly. Now, the General Assembly is effectively all of those 57 member boards represented, together with an executive of 4 members, of which today I'm currently the president, which manages the ongoing ISTQB. What sits around the General Assembly at the next level is working groups. So groups of people who are developing things for us, be they for internal use or for public domain like syllabi, etc. Outside of that, we have the member boards that I've explained, the 57 member boards. Outside of that, in the world of software testing, our next level of customer is the training provider and the exam bodies. So the training providers are the people who provide all the training if you wish to go into a classroom for ISTQB, and the exam bodies maintain and control the exams that we take. Then we have the certified professionals, hopefully many of you out there who've got some of our certifications already. Alongside them, we have the companies they work for, the development companies, the user community, and our partners. We have partner companies who work with us. Outside of that, we have academia. We have a really strong relationship with universities around the world, looking at how we can develop for them and for ourselves. We have public administration and tool developers, obviously. And then finally, the community at large. Part of our goal is to encourage and grow the community at large understanding of software testing. So that's the kind of value chain we work within. And as you can see on here, there are some links if you wanted to understand a little bit more about what they really are. What I'd like to cover off next, though, is really the detail of how the ISTQB is structured. So as I said originally, this bit in the middle here, the ISTQB General Assembly, is effectively the rulemaking and the management organisation of the whole organisation. So there are 57 members, together with the executive and our governance colleagues, who oversee the running of it. Now, if we look underneath this, I've discussed the executive committee. The executive committee is made up of 4 members at the moment: the president, myself, there is a vice president, secretary, and a treasurer. And we are responsible for managing the General Assembly, ensuring it does what it needs to do. Alongside us, we work with the governance team. There's currently a governance officer and a vice governance officer whose role it is to ensure that we comply with our rules and we're well governed and we do things correctly. The next sort of subgroup is what we call our Product Development Steering Committee, and this is where discussions and products get developed, so that we sit together and we discuss ideas for products. We work together to try and develop them. And then sitting around the outside of all of this, you see what we call our working groups. So we have a glossary working group who maintain the glossary and ensure that every time we update our syllabi, or if a term changes, that it's updated. We have a foundation working group that maintains and develops the foundation level. We have an advanced and expert working group doing exactly the same for advanced and expert. We have a TBOK working group, so the Testing Book of Knowledge working group, who are working really hard to build and create our book of knowledge. We have an exam working group whose role it is to ensure that we define exams correctly and they develop all the rules for us about that, and develop all our practice exams, so the practice exams that release to the marketplace. We have the process management and compliance team. Now these guys do audits, so they check that people comply with the processes they should, as well as write those processes. We have the marketing team, very important team, who developed this picture, for example, for us, who it's a very large team actually, who do lots of excellent work maintaining the website, doing presentations, etc. And finally, release management. As with any product that gets delivered, we need somebody to ensure that it gets delivered in the right way. So we have somebody managing the releases. If we look outward from the General Assembly and this group of people, the next level up is our member boards, followed by the training providers and exam providers. So this is fundamentally how we work as an organisation. So given that's the structure, how do we develop a product? Well, if we start from over here, we have an idea. Somebody has an idea for a new product, or has an idea that we need to update an existing product. It could be one or either. That idea is then built into a business case, which is presented to the General Assembly. And the General Assembly meets twice a year, normally sometime around March, April, and October, November time of every year. Now that General Assembly will decide whether the idea and the business case is right for ISTQB to develop, and will either say yes or no. Assuming it says yes, we'll then move into the development phase, where the syllabi, any practice exams, any glossary updates, all of the work that needs to be done, not just developing the syllabi, any marketing updates, all get put together in a package. These are reviewed both internally and externally to our partners. And most of our member boards have something called technical advisory groups, which are made up of training providers and are partners who then do an external review of the documentation before it comes out. It then returns, once that is complete, to the General Assembly, who will agree that it's good enough to go into the public domain. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean it's launched immediately. What it means is it's now ready for launch. So ISTQB then looks at the schedule, looks at the impact on our training providers and our exam providers, and says, right, this is the time it's going to launch. And eventually, at a point that is reasonable for everybody, we hit the launch button and the product is live. So that's fundamentally a very quick run through from ISTQB. Started in 2002, 800,000 odd people taking exams so far, predominantly in the foundation area. And we've then cycled through structure and also how we develop products. So given that I've given you all that information, I'm now going to take you through what are the next 4 exciting syllabi that could be coming to production very soon. So I'm going to talk to you about the automotive tester. I'm going to talk to you about gambling. I'm going to talk to you about usability and acceptance testing. But before I do that, if you go onto our website, you'll see this picture. It's not particularly clear on here, I get that, but this is the entirety of our product setup. So bang smack in the middle here, we have what we call our core products. Now these core products are effectively our certified tester foundation level, certified tester advanced level, certified tester expert level. Now, these are the core of our business. They're not specific, they're generic qualifications at varying levels. Alongside those, we have the Agile stream, and the Agile stream we already have in production the Agile Foundation. It's out there, it's being used today, and we'll talk a bit more about a potentially new level of Agile certification very soon, later on in this presentation. And finally, we have the specialist. Now, the specialist has grown out of demand from different member boards who have a local requirement. And so within here, there are a selection of certification schemes for specific subjects. And I'll talk about some of those in a minute because most of what's coming into production in the next few months is actually in the specialist area. So we have something that's up for imminent release, which is the automotive software tester. So effectively, the automotive software tester has been developed in partnership with the German testing board. In Germany, there is a very, very strong automotive industry, as we all know. There are other parts of the world where there's incredibly strong automotive industry as well, America, Korea. So they initially developed it for their internal market in Germany and subsequently have updated it and now have presented it to ISTQB as a generic syllabus that could be used across the world. It covers 3 specific areas, which are standards for the testing of the end-to-end automotive systems. So that looks at things like Automotive Spice, ISO 26262, AutoSAR, and does a comparison between them all. It then looks at the fact that you can't test automotive software in situ. You have to test it often in a virtual environment. So there's a structure of test environments and metrics and how you interpret results from things like performance tests. And then finally, there's automotive specific static and dynamic test techniques. So it's looking at the static test techniques that are necessary for automotive testing. And a lot of these are actually prescribed by the standards. So the standard defines you have to use certain techniques, and this helps you learn those, as well as the dynamic techniques that are needed to do the testing, and helps you to make to understand the decision outcome process, so that you can actually know whether the software in the car is important, is working. Now, the interesting thing with automotive software, I think, is that actually we all drive cars today, and most of us don't realise that what we're actually driving is a very large computer. So this is incredibly important for the industry to ensure that we have a compliant and a repeatable process for automotive software testing. This is actually already been authorised. The General Assembly authorised this a few months ago. It's now currently going through our marketing team, being polished, shall we say, by marketing ready for release. So imminent release. This will come to the market very soon. So if you watch the ISTQB website, you'll see details of this coming up very, very soon. Okay, now we have a selection. Our next General Assembly is in fact in less than 2 weeks' time, and there are 3 syllabi that are coming through for authorization to go live. So the first one is the Gambling Industry Tester Specialist syllabus. This syllabus has been developed in conjunction by our Canadian member board and a group of testing gambling testing consultancies. So it's worked with the market to actually produce this. It covers an introduction to the gambling industry, as you can see, things like objectives, overviews, the activities, the type of artifacts, and the types of gambling. And it's fascinating. I didn't realize there were, to me, gambling is just giving money away and losing it. That's all that happens to me. I don't seem to ever win money. I just seem to give money away when I gamble. But this takes you through all the different types of gambling and the concepts, how they develop their metrics, and what the actual software testing life cycle is for gambling. Now, gambling is a massive industry worldwide, and obviously a lot of it's online now, and a lot of it uses technology. So this is all very, very important stuff. Now, the other thing this covers off is the gambling industry ecosystem. So it's looking at what testing phases fit within that life cycle, for example. So now we look at testing in the gambling industry. So what is gambling and wagering testing? So we look at what's called math testing, platform testing, system testing, protocol testing, hardware testing, remote gambling testing, system and network security, jackpot control, and online gambling testing. So you then get you've got sort of an introduction to the industry, and then detail of exactly the testing that needs to happen. So this has been through an internal review and an external review. It's now being presented for going live. So assuming it gets authorized again within the next few months, you'll see this start to appear on our website, details of, and it'll start rolling out through our members. Now, the interesting thing with these specialist syllabus is not every country, not every board will implement them. For example, the automotive syllabus is really only useful for countries that have predominant automotive industry. I live in the UK. We have what we call a Lego industry for cars. Literally, parts are shipped here and we just connect them together. We don't do any testing in the same sense that they would do, for example, in BMW's factories in Germany or in Korea, in the factories in Korea. So gambling is another one that not every country either supports or encourages gambling. There are countries that do, and obviously this is here for that purpose, so that those people can have access to the details. The next syllabus that is coming up for approval in when we're in our next General Assembly is the Usability Testing Specialist syllabus. Now this is another one that's been developed by the German Testing Board with the Usability Forum, so that we can bring together usability and testing into a single syllabus. This is again up for approval in our next General Assembly. There'll be the basic concepts covered, things like the fundamentals and human-centered design. We'll then look at the risks that usability generates, so that we can understand how we test for those things. We look at usability and accessibility standards. So what are there out there that can actually guide us? We look at usability reviews. So how do we do usability reviews? How do you do that? What people do you use? How do you use people to do that? And then we have usability testing, which covers the plethora of how you ensure that something is usable. So we're looking at how you might conduct the actual usability testing sessions. These are very different to normal testing sessions, where you would have test cases and you'd have an expected result. With usability, you're using people who would actually touch the system, and you're asking them to tell them if it works for you. We look at how you gather results from that and how you communicate those results. Then we look at how we use user surveys. User surveys are a very important part of usability, understanding whether the users are comfortable or not. Then we looked at selecting whatever methods of of approach we'll have and what the criteria for that is. And finally, we look at the roles and responsibilities. So what is a usability tester? What skills do they need? And finally, the moderator and note taker, somebody who's very important when usability is going on, keeping an eye on what's happening. So that again is up for authorization in our next General Assembly, and hopefully will be again launched very shortly. Finally, the third syllabus that's up for review and authorization in our next General Assembly is Performance Testing Specialist Syllabus. Excuse me. So this is not specific to a tool, it's generic on how you do performance testing. So it looks at the basic principles, what types of performance testing there are, what testing types you have within performance testing, the concept of load generation. There's a lot of confusion. Everybody thinks non-functional testing is just one thing. It's many, many things of which performance is part of. Then it looks at how we measure the performance, so aggregated details, typical metrics, etc. We then look at where performance testing sits in the SDLC and how you can use that. So we're looking at the activities that exist of where the risks are and when the best time is to do performance testing. Then we look at the tasks, so the planning, the analysis, design and implementation of our test, the execution of our test, then analysing results and reporting. And then finally, we look at tool support. So we're not specifically looking at any tool, we're just generally, it is accepted that if you do performance testing, you need tools to support you to do that. And then it gives you some guidance on how you can make your tool, how tools can be suitable. This again is up for approval in our meeting in a few weeks' time. So like I said, that doesn't mean that they're going to go live immediately after our meeting. What it means is we've accepted them ready to go live, and our release management team will look at them and say, right, what's the best time to launch them? What's the best time for our training providers to build courses? How long will it take to write exams, etc., etc., etc. And there's also the translation, because all of these will come out in English, or American English, which is the language of ISTQB, and then have to be translated by every board into their own local language if they wish to do so. Some people stay with English, obviously the UK does, pretty obviously, but there are other places around the world where English stays. For example, in Holland, a lot of the exams are still running with English out there. In France, they do them in French. So it really just depends on the country and the desire to have something in there. That'll be down to the local board whose job it will be to actually make sure the translation is done and checked for accuracy. So those were the 4 syllabi. Let's look at the exams themselves. So these are all at foundation level. They are foundation level syllabi, specialist syllabi. They're all actually 40 question multiple choice exams. The first 3 are given 60 minutes in length. And what we say in ISTQB is that if you're taking an exam in a non-native language, we add some extra time. So for a 60-minute exam, if the language you're taking that exam in is non-native to you, you get 75 minutes. Now, performance testing has some more sophisticated structures within it because of what it is. So it needs slightly longer for people to take the exam. What we do is we have something called K levels, which I'll explain in a second, which enable us to or give us a type of question. And the more of the higher A levels you have, the longer it will take you because it's more practical. So obviously that's slightly longer, half an hour longer, and then obviously some more time on top for the non-native. But these are still multiple choice exams. So I talked just then about K levels. So what are K levels? K levels are about cognitive level. They're about how you learn. So a K1 is just to remember. So if we just ask you what is X, Y, Z, and we give you 5 choices, and one of them is the term, and means that, so choose it. The second one is K2 is being able to explain, to understand, to explain a concept. Then K3 means you can apply it. Now, my understanding is for performance, we have quite a few K3s and not so many K1s and 2s. For the others, we have a splattering across the board, which is why performance is slightly different. So generally at foundation level, we stop at K3. K4 tends to come into play when we get to advanced level, and that's about distinguishing facts, so doing some analysis. And K5 and K6 looking at how you can evaluate, how you can make a judgment, and how you can create your own stuff. If you're interested in understanding the K levels, there's more information on the FAQ on the ISTQB website, so please do go and have a look. So that's an introduction to the new syllabi that are on their way in the next, hopefully, the next few months. But as I said, there are other syllabi in development at the moment, and I can't tell you when they're going to come to delivery because they're still in very early stage of development. But there are others to cover off. So I wanted just you to be aware of what else is coming soon. So we have mobile tester, which is a foundation level exam, and that's looking at how you test mobile devices. We have acceptance testing, which is a partnership with the French board and an acceptance testing forum, again at foundation level, looking at the structure for acceptance testing. Now, both of those are in review at the moment, so they could very well come through to the next General Assembly for authorization. They might be the one after. Then we have the Agile technical, so we've obviously got an Agile foundation at the moment. There's the Agile technical, which is currently in development. That's an advanced level certification. That is not in review at the moment. It's currently still being built. So, and more information will come clear on that as time goes on. We also, as I said to you earlier on, we have the core, which is basically the initial development that we did. It's what ISTQB established itself as. And at the advanced level, we last launched the advanced level 5 years ago. So the advanced level, the 3 certification schemes in advanced level, test analyst, technical test analyst, and test manager, are now up for review so that to see if there's any changes necessary. This is still very early. They're just analysing whether there is change. And again, as more information becomes available, that will be provided to you via the ISTQB website. So some quite exciting times. We still, we have a few syllabi coming along. People ask me, how do we decide what the syllabi are and what these specialists, particularly the specialist syllabi are? ISTQB runs a yearly survey where we ask people what they would like to see in the way of certification schemes. So obviously, if we get a lot of requests, so the last big one we got was for mobile tester and performance tester. So those two are now certifications that are going to be coming up very soon. So I think it's we listen to our market, we work with our market. Hopefully, some of you will have seen that when we've issued these questionnaires in the past. But if not, just keep an eye on the ISTQB website because there'll always be a link on there when they come out. I can't tell you when the next one is, that we don't have a plan for one at the moment, but there will be one within the next few months. So finally, I wanted to kind of talk to you. Well, I wanted to talk to you a bit about my view. This is my personal view. This isn't sanctioned by ISTQB. It's just my own personal view of where ISTQB goes next. We're obviously the biggest certification provider in the software testing industry, but it's a certification level, so it's not necessarily proving capability, it's proving knowledge. It means that at a moment in time you knew something, you were able to repeat something and to use your analysis skills to answer some questions. So if we work through this, we are the leader and we have the core, but actually new advances in the industry are happening all the time. Yeah, we've moved through Agile, we're now into DevOps, for example. There are lots of different ways that industry moves forward. And ISTQB does its best to align with these and provide syllabi if our customers require them. As I said, through our surveys, if you ask for one, we will try and provide one. We're actually getting our development life cycle down to less than a year now from initial idea through to production and live. So actually we can now move quite fast. So that whole certification area, and when I say certification in this, what I mean is a point in time measure of your understanding. I've just seen a question coming. Can I say anything as to when the advanced level for Agile tester will come? There were questions yesterday and even the day before. So I can't today, I'm afraid. What I can say is in 2 weeks' time, Rex Black, who is running that work stream, is presenting to the General Assembly his plans for the delivery of that. So I think there have been some challenges to the content and they've been re-looking at what they deliver. We should know within 2 weeks. So unfortunately, I'm sorry, I can't tell you today because I just don't know. Rex is still working through the development of that and the plan for that. So hopefully we will know in a couple of weeks' time. By all means, if you are interested, please come in and use the info app on the ISTQB website and ask the question, and I'm sure our marketing people will give you the right answer. Okay, so we are where we are today, and we're very good at what we do today. We're very good at producing Cinebuy. We're very good at trying to keep up with the market. However, the market is actually moving very differently. So employers are now saying they don't just want certification, they want qualifications that actually verify the ability rather than just the knowledge. And what they define this as is competency-based qualifications or certifications. So rather than, I've got ISTQB Foundation and last time you took it was 10 years ago, therefore how up to date are you? They're looking for something that verifies that you can physically do the job you say you'll do. And different countries have started to establish apprenticeship schemes for IT, and that includes testing. The UK government have done exactly that, and it has enabled us to see a very different way of creating certification schemes. Other countries are doing the same thing now, where because in the IT industry there has been a drop-off of people entering the industry, and they've been looking to try and encourage people in by producing these apprenticeship schemes. So we're looking at these options, and we're looking at whether it's something we can do. A competency-based certification scheme is something we can do, and it will work. How do we, for example, how do we verify somebody is capable of doing something unless we see them actually do it? How do we do that when we have, if you take America as an example, we can have somebody on the East Coast who needs to be checked by somebody on the West Coast. How do you do that? How do you make that possible? So it's a long way away for us at the moment, but it's probably the next place we'll start investigating. So we have no definite plans, but as the industry is moving to competency-based certification, we need to keep up with that so we can keep providing what the industry needs. So we are looking at that. So to help understand this all in context, I've got this very quick drawing here. So in the dead center middle there, you can see the blue box, which is certification. So that's what we do today. It's very knowledge-based. You have syllabi, glossary, exams, etc. And it's where ISTQB has created its niche. Around the outside of that, we have what we would determine as the professionalization level. Now, this is where the competency framework comes in, where we're looking at people's knowledge, skills, and behavior, and is completely reliant on a testing book of knowledge to do some comparisons with it. Now, the principle here, we're not here yet, but there are the industry is looking at, the industry is not properly there yet, to be fair, but the industry is looking at it. It looks for professional recognition. It's looking for how you practice what you preach, and it's looking at how we keep it current. How do we ensure that somebody's knowledge? So this is where ISTQB, I see it moving, hence the arrows, where I see ISTQB looking at next. Whether it does or not has still to be decided. It's not my call. The General Assembly will need to make that call, but it's an area we need to investigate and understand. So how does this all fit together though? Because outside of that, we have what we've determined industrialization layer, where you or I implement and influence using what we've learned. Yeah, so we go into an organization, we start doing what we need to do, what we know and what we practice through the professionalization layer, and we influence and change the way organizations work to make them more effective and more efficient. So the idea here is you have to be kept relevant. You have to be kept up to date, and you can and must use this in practice. So you can see how that dwells. And then outside of that, we have the world of technology and all those development practices that change almost daily. Somebody comes up with a bright idea, they rebadge an old idea and make it more popular. Sorry, I'm talking about agile there. But that's the principle that the technology world we live in runs with. We are very open to new ideas, and we're very open to some wacky new ideas as well that might help us to develop more. So that drives from the outside all of the influences that make the central certification quite so key. So with that slide, that finishes my presentation. So I guess the floor's open for questions. simply typing. I would like to ask you about courses for safety critical applications as ISTQB and such stuff. Currently, we have the last 3 surveys we've done, we've referenced safety critical the application of testing in safety critical systems, but not had a big take up from our audience, unfortunately. So today we have no direct plans to develop anything in that area. Obviously, Eugene, if you are really interested, do keep an eye on the ISTQB website. The more people tell us what they want, the more we're able to understand what is the right thing. So please do go onto the website, use the info app, watch for the survey, and fill it in and tell us what you want. But today, unfortunately, there are no plans. Are there any other questions? I've either done a great job or you've all fallen asleep. Thanks, Erica. I'm glad to hear it too. So just as a final slide, if you want to know anything about ISTQB, please go to www.istqb.org or use info@istqb.org to ask any questions you may have on the scheme and the products. Thank you. Yeah, that's fine, Erica. Please do put the presentation up for you to download. Yeah, I look forward to seeing you there. If there are no other questions, I'll close my presentation. Thanks, Erica. Thank you. I'll close the presentation now. Am I live in Luxembourg? No, actually, I'm live in the United Kingdom in sunny Brighton. Oh, where's it gone? There we go. Oh, there it is. UKTB. Important T-shirt. Thank you. Have a good evening, everybody.
Thank you very much.
That's okay. Good. Thank you. It worked really well. So hopefully everybody heard me okay. So I just shut everything down now and I come off, yeah?
Okay, I'll switch you off.
Oh, you'll switch me off. All right. Thank you.
If you like.
No, go for it. Go for it. Thank you.
Everything was okay, and I think everybody is happy hear the news from you. Thank you very much.
No worries. No worries. Thank you.
So we shall end our event, and if you have questions to Rex Black, please write in chat, or you'll get back form, and you can leave your questions there. The questions will be directly sent to Rex Black, and you'll get the answers. So see you tomorrow with Thomas, guys. We'll be waiting for you tomorrow. Bye.